interpretation shared his dream. 3 baskets of bread on his head, and birds eating from the top basket. Joseph's face changed. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and hang your body on a tree. 3 days later, both interpretations came to pass. The cupbearer was restored, the baker was executed. But the cupbearer did not remember Joseph. He forgot him completely. 2 full years Joseph remained in that prison. No word from the cupbearer, no summons, no deliverance. Just the slow passing of days in the silence of forgotten walls. Then one night, Pharaoh dreamed. He stood by the Nile and watched 7 cows come up from the river, healthy, fat, and sleek. They grazed among the reeds. But then 7 other cows emerged behind them, ugly, gaunt, and wasted. The thin cows devoured the fat ones, yet remained as thin as before. Pharaoh woke, troubled. He fell asleep again and dreamed a second time. 7 heads of grain grew on a single stalk, plump and full. Then 7 thin heads, scorched by the east wind, sprouted and swallowed the healthy grain. Morning came, and Pharaoh's spirit was deeply disturbed. He summoned every magician and wise man in Egypt. None could tell him the meaning. Then the cupbearer remembered. He stepped forward and confessed how he had forgotten the Hebrew prisoner who had interpreted his dream in the dungeon, and how every word had come true. Pharaoh sent for Joseph immediately. They brought him out of the pit. He shaved, changed his garments, and was rushed into the throne room. There stood Pharaoh, ruler of the most powerful kingdom on earth, waiting for a prisoner to speak.
I have heard that you can understand a dream and interpret it.
Joseph did not hesitate, but he would not take credit.
It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace.
Pharaoh told him both dreams, the cows, the grain, the devouring. Joseph listened carefully, then spoke with certainty. The 2 dreams are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 fat cows and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years of great abundance throughout the land of Egypt. The 7 thin cows and the 7 scorched heads are 7 years of famine that will follow. The famine will be so severe that the years of plenty will be forgotten. Joseph continued. The dream had come twice because the matter was fixed. God would bring it to pass soon. Then, without being asked, Joseph offered counsel. Let Pharaoh appoint a wise and discerning man to oversee the land. Let him collect 1/5 of all the harvest during the 7 good years and store it. This reserve will keep Egypt alive when the famine comes. The words hung in the air. Pharaoh looked at this man, a foreigner, a slave, a prisoner, and saw something no one else had shown him. He saw an answer. Pharaoh looked at his servants, then back at Joseph. The decision came swiftly.
Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you.
Pharaoh removed his signet ring and placed it on Joseph's finger. They clothed him in garments of fine linen and hung a gold chain around his neck. He rode in a chariot as the second in command, and men cried out before him, "Bow the knee!" Joseph, once thrown into a pit by his brothers, once sold for 20 pieces of silver, once falsely accused and forgotten in prison, now ruled over all the land of Egypt. He was 30 years old. Pharaoh gave him a new name, Zaphenath-Paneah. He gave him a wife, Asenath, daughter of a priest of On. In time, she bore him 2 sons. Joseph named the first Manasseh, saying, God has made me forget all my hardship. He named the second Ephraim, saying, God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. The 7 years of abundance came, just as Joseph had said. The land produced plentifully, and Joseph gathered grain like the sand of the sea, so much that they stopped measuring it. Then the good years ended. Famine spread across the earth. Crops failed, rivers dried, nations began to starve. But in Egypt there was bread, and from every corner of the world people came to Joseph to buy grain. Among them 10 brothers from Canaan. Back in Canaan, Jacob and his household felt the grip of famine. The fields yielded nothing. Their stores ran low. When Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt, he called his sons together. Why do you stand looking at one another? Go down to Egypt and buy grain so that we may live and not die. 10 of the brothers set out on the long journey south, but Benjamin, the youngest, Rachel's only other son, stayed behind. Jacob would not risk him. He had already lost Joseph. He could not bear to lose Benjamin too. The brothers arrived in Egypt and were brought before the governor of the land, the man in charge of selling grain to all who came. They did not recognize him. How could they? The boy they had thrown into a pit was now dressed in Egyptian linen, speaking through an interpreter, wearing the authority of Pharaoh himself. But Joseph recognized them instantly. He saw their faces, older now, weathered by years, and his heart stirred. Yet he did not reveal himself. Instead, he spoke harshly.
You are spies. You have come to see the weakness of our land.
The brothers fell to the ground before him. They protested, desperate to explain.
No, my lord. Your servants have come only to buy food. We are honest men, 12 brothers from Canaan Kestion, sons of one father. The youngest is with our father today, and one is no more.
Joseph listened. He tested them further, demanding they prove their story by bringing the youngest brother to Egypt. Until then, one of them would remain behind as prisoner. He chose Simeon. The guards bound him and took him away while the others watched in silence. The remaining brothers loaded their donkeys with grain and departed. But Joseph had secretly ordered his servants to return each man's silver, hiding it in their sacks. They did not yet understand. The past they had buried was rising to meet them. The brothers returned to Canaan and told Jacob everything. The harsh governor, the accusation, Simeon held captive, and the demand to bring Benjamin. Jacob refused. My son will not go down with you. His brother is dead, and he alone is left. If harm should come to him, you would bring my gray head down to the grave in sorrow. But the famine pressed harder. The grain ran out. There was no choice. Judah stepped forward and made a solemn vow.
Send the boy with me. I myself will be surety for him. If I do not bring him back to you, let me bear the blame forever.
Jacob relented. He sent them off with gifts, balm, honey, spices, myrrh, and double the silver to repay what had been returned. And he sent Benjamin. When Joseph saw his younger brother among them, his composure nearly broke. He turned away and went into a private room to weep. Then he washed his face and returned. He released Simeon. He invited them all to dine in his house. The brothers were seated in the order of their birth, oldest to youngest, and they looked at one another in astonishment. How could this Egyptian know? Benjamin received 5 times as much food as the others. Joseph watched him from across the room, saying nothing. The next morning, the brothers departed with their donkeys loaded with grain. But Joseph had given his steward one final instruction. Place his personal silver cup in Benjamin's sack. They had not gone far when the steward overtook them. Why have you repaid good with evil? You have stolen my master's cup." The brothers were stunned. They denied it fiercely. "If the cup is found with any of us, let that man die, and the rest of us will become slaves." The search began. Oldest to youngest, sack after sack was opened. Nothing. Then the steward reached Benjamin. He opened the sack, and there, gleaming in the morning sun, was the silver cup. The brothers tore their clothes in anguish. They returned to the city, dreading what awaited them. Joseph was waiting. His voice was cold. "What have you done? Did you not know that a man like me can discern such things?" The brothers fell before him. Judah spoke for them all, his voice broken. "What can we say? God has uncovered the guilt of your servants. We are all your slaves." But Joseph shook his head. "Only the one in whose hand the cup was found shall be my slave. The rest of you may return in peace to your father." This was the test. Would they abandon Benjamin as they had once abandoned Joseph? Judah stepped forward. He told the whole story, their father's grief, the lost son, the vow he had made. Then he offered himself.
Please, let me remain as your slave in place of the boy. Let him return to his father. For how can I go back if the boy is not with me? I cannot bear to see the suffering that would come upon my father.
Silence filled the room. Joseph could bear it no longer. Judah's words broke through every wall he had built. The brother, who had once suggested selling him into slavery, was now offering his own life to save Benjamin. Something had changed in them. The test was complete. Joseph turned to his Egyptian servants, his voice trembling. "Everyone leave me, now." They obeyed. When the room was empty and only his brothers remained, Joseph let go. He wept, not quietly, but with loud, heaving sobs that echoed through the hall. The sound carried beyond the walls. Pharaoh's household heard it. The brothers stood frozen, terrified, unsure what was happening. Then Joseph spoke, not in Egyptian, but in their own tongue, the voice of their youth, the voice they had tried to forget.
I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?
The brothers could not answer. They stared at him, paralyzed with fear. The boy from the pit, the dreamer they had sold. He stood before them now as the most powerful man in Egypt. Joseph saw their terror. He called them closer. They did not move. He called again, gently. "Come near to me." They stepped forward, trembling.
I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But do not be distressed or angry with yourselves. It was not you who sent me here, Pod. It was God. He sent me ahead of you to preserve life. The famine has lasted 2 years, and 5 more will come. God made me ruler of all Egypt so that I could save our family. So it was not you who sent me here, but God.
He fell upon Benjamin's neck and wept. Benjamin wept with him. Then Joseph kissed each of his brothers and wept over them. Only then could they bring themselves to speak. News of the reunion reached Pharaoh's palace. Pharaoh was pleased and told Joseph to send for his father and his entire household. He promised them the best of the land of Egypt. Joseph gave his brothers carts, provisions, and new garments. To Benjamin, he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 sets of clothes. He sent donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and goods for the journey. As they departed, Joseph looked at them one last time. "Do not quarrel on the way," he said. They returned to Canaan and found their father. The words tumbled out of them. "Joseph is alive. He is ruler over all the land of Egypt." Jacob's heart went numb. He could not believe it. But when he saw the carts Joseph had sent, his spirit revived. "It is enough," he said. "My son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." And so Jacob journeyed to Egypt with his sons, their wives, and their children, 70 souls in all. Joseph rode out to meet his father in Goshen. When he saw him, he fell on his neck and wept for a long time. The dreamer's dreams had come to pass. The family was whole again. And so ends the story of Joseph. Story of betrayal and blessing, of suffering and sovereignty, of a boy who lost everything and a man who forgave those who took it from him. But this story is not just about Joseph, it is about us. Perhaps you have been thrown into a pit by people you trusted. Perhaps you have done everything right and still found yourself in chains. Perhaps you are waiting, forgotten, unseen, wondering if your dreams will ever come to pass. Joseph's life reminds us of this. God does not waste your pain, every pit, every prison, every delay. He is working through it all. What others meant for evil, God can turn for good. Not sometimes, always. The same God who watched over Joseph watches over you. He has not forgotten you. Your story is not over. Hold on. Stay faithful.